Hey judges, starting this one by thanking God for another opportunity to bring you all the rundown, where I rank the top 10 most polarizing political topics shaping the conversation each week. And this episode is Blessful 13, just putting that out there for those not keeping up. But I'm still here, bringing you the biggest stories that are shaping our political picture to date.
With the tracking week going from May 17th to May 23rd.
And if you are finding this video for the first time, hey, and thank you for watching. Let me give you a quick beat on how this works.
I track the biggest political moments across the media landscape, then rank them based on impact, reaction, and the amount of noise they are generating.
And judges, this week was one for the books. I'm deeming this episode as Audacity takes the reins. And once we get into the things, I believe you all will agree. But before I jump into this ranking, please do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel. Also, I want to thank you guys for running up the numbers on my short content.
And with that, it's now time to fill this board.
And we start with number 10, Jeffrey Epstein, because during this tracking week, there were two things that took up its share of the media space. First, there was a closed-door interview of the former correction officer that was said to be the last person that saw him alive, and then the interview with his former assistant, who stated that she was just as much as a victim of his as the other young girls. So expect this to be a topic of conversation for a couple more weeks, as the committee has plans of calling others to testify, including Pam Bondi. And now we move to number 9, Candace Owens and Hunter Biden. Now judges, this unexpected pairing had a sit-down interview that aired during this tracking week, and the conversation seemed genuine and touched on very vulnerable topics, which landed with Hunter opening up about his drug addiction and Candace apologizing to him as she felt as though she contributed to the echo chamber of it all, not factoring in his real-world struggles during that time. She stated that she saw him as a character, not a human being. Now we look at number 8, Thomas Massie. Massie is a sitting U.S. senator who went into his primary already at a disadvantage. Yes, he was running against Ed Gallrein, but the real story was the split between him and Trump. Once Trump backed Gallrein, the money surged, the ads hit, Pete Hegseth popped in, and the whole thing shifted. By election day, Massie didn't stand a chance, and he lost his seat. Moving on to number 7, Raul Castro, the former Cuban president. The Castro name is one you've definitely heard, but Raul might be the one you never really paid attention to. He's Fidel Castro's brother. And this week, the U.S. dropped an indictment on him tied to that 1996 Brothers to the Rescue shootdown, where 2 civilian planes were blown out of the sky and 3 Americans were killed. Nearly 30 years later, Washington is calling it accountability, and Havana is calling it political. So the real question is, are we looking at justice or the start of another Maduro-style situation, with military forces swooping in and extracting him at the break of nightfall? So judges, it's time to review the number 6 spot, Kamala Harris. Now, the former VP is no stranger to the rundown, and this week, she's here as a bit of a sequel to the last time I spoke on her. The DNC finally released its long-delayed autopsy report on her 2024 loss, a 192-page breakdown the party itself admits is incomplete and full of inaccuracies. It's reopened debates about her campaign strategy, her messaging, her rural outreach, and the fact that the report completely skips Gaza. And the reaction has been mixed. Some outlets note she was the one pushing for the release, while others are asking what the point is in 2026 when the party has bigger fires to put out. Okay, we made it to our midpoint. Please hit that like button. The more likes, the better the algorithm behaves. Sliding into number 5, the US-Iran conflict. The Trump administration keeps insisting this isn't a forever war, yet somehow it's taking forever to wrap up. The region is still a fragile mess. There's still a naval blockade at the Strait of Hormuz, and American gas prices are climbing at the worst possible moment, literally a day before Memorial Day, the unofficial start of summer. And here we are, still in it, with no peace plan in sight. Now to the top 4, and I'll be honest, these could have landed in any order, but for number 4, I chose Stephen Colbert. I'm sure you've heard by now, but The Late Show has officially come to an end, closing out a run on CBS that stretched across more than 3 decades. And the reaction online has been a lot. On one side, people were talking about freedom of the press, what this means for journalism, and whether this is a sign of bigger media capitulations. On the other side, it was all about ratings, how late-night TV is analog and outdated, how Colbert's digital numbers were actually stronger than his network numbers, and how the staffing demands just couldn't keep up with the pace of modern content. So yes, Colbert has signed off from CBS, but most folks expect him to pop back up in another medium. I'm watching, and I'll keep you posted. Then on to number 3. And this one was late breaking, but the gotcha of it all shot it straight into the top 3. Tulsi Gabbard. So Tulsi is stepping down as the director of ONI, and this one caught a lot of folks off guard. Gabbard was one of the last high-ranking women in the Trump cabinet, and unlike Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi, this time it wasn't a firing, it was a resignation. Reports say she's stepping down to be by her husband's side as he battles a rare form of bone cancer. So I'm giving you the highlight reel here, because this is my latest short. Hit that up for the full breakdown. Find out what Trump thought about the whole thing and who's in line to take over the role. So judges, it's time for number 2. And forewarning, this one is a ball of mess. The Anti-Weaponization Fund. This thing pulled almost every political figurehead into the conversation. But for me, J.D. Vance, Todd Blanche, and Jasmine Crockett were the standouts. The fund is basically reparations by another name, marketed as a way to pay back January 6ers for what's being framed as civil pain and suffering from the fallout of that day. Vance and Blanche are backing their administration's line, while Crockett came in as the voice of common sense. I hit all 3 of them during this tracking week, so check those shorts for the full breakdown. And lastly, Trump. The week really kicked off when he quietly dropped that lawsuit against the IRS. And almost immediately after, this whole anti-weaponization fund rolled out. The timing alone had everybody talking. From there, everything else was B-roll. Don Jr.'s upcoming wedding celebration, where Trump basically said he's stuck between a rock and a hard place about attending because the country is at war. And then him weighing in on almost every major rundown moment on Truth Social. Massey, Colbert, the anti-weaponization debate. He had commentary on all of it. Trump definitely took the crown and owned the tracking week.
Okay, judges, did you miss my face? It's back. And there you have it. My top 10 political moments of the tracking week. And now it's your turn. Do you agree with my top 10, or did something else catch your eye? Drop in the comments and let me know. And lastly, I want to send a prayer request out for our military and our veteran community. Continue to keep them in your prayers. Also, Memorial Day is tomorrow. So never forget, all who served gave some, but some who served gave all. And with that, I'm out. I'll see you next week for another episode of The Rundown. Bye-bye.